Hey everybody, I wanted to spend a couple of minutes talking through our next assignment, which is the research proposal. In some ways, this assignment is the most important of all of the assignments that we will do this semester because everything else that you do from this point forward goes back to this assignment, is based on the questions that you ask in this proposal. So essentially what you're doing here is you're defining a research question for yourself that you're going to spend the rest of the semester researching and pursuing. That question should be related to the course theme, right, which is legacies. I want you to propose a methodology for answering that question as well. A methodology means how you'll go about doing something, the study of your method. So you'll also be articulating what you want to explore and why it's important that you're asking the questions that you're asking while you're studying the semester, the topic that you're studying. And then to do this assignment, you're going to need to spend just a little bit of time doing some research about the questions that you're asking or about the overall topic that will then kind of be narrowed down to your questions, because without doing that, it's not really possible to ask the kinds of in-depth questions that you need to ask for this proposal to work well. So essentially, I just want 2 pages from you, but I want you to pitch a researchable how or why question that is related to our course theme of legacies. So this question can be connected to your own personal legacy, or it can be kind of connected to your understanding of what that term means. When you think legacies, think history, and you can think, the history of a particular people, a history of a movement, or something that you think is interesting. So we were talking in a previous video about gangster rap that's came out of South Central Los Angeles in the 80s and the early 90s. So, thinking about legacies of music that are kind of passed down. You can even think of things like activities like martial arts as being related to legacies in some way, and pitch research questions surrounding that. So again, it's a real bulky topic, but a legacy is anything that is passed down and that the person who kind of owns it has maybe some sort of responsibility for, right? So at any rate, you are going to want to pitch a question related to the theme of this class, legacies. It should be meaningful to you. Again, it has to sustain you throughout the entirety of the semester, and so it should matter to you. And you want it to be complex and interesting in that same way. You're going to have to write at least 5 pages about this at the end of the semester, or really kind of throughout the semester, building on it throughout the semester. And though that's not really that much time and space to spend on a paper, these are definitely better papers when you're able to go more in depth into your topic. But at the same time, you don't want it to be unwieldy, right? You don't want it to be unmanageable in the couple of months that we have here for you to write this. So I'm your primary audience, your classmates are your primary audience. You want to make sure that your research proposal, the questions that you're asking are clear to us, that they're understandable, but that also they're interesting, right? You want to kind of convince us that yours is a problem worth investigating. And so, you want to kind of explain to us what interests you about this topic, why we should learn more about it, what's at stake in the issue that we're exploring. And so you do want to spend a little bit of time just researching your question before you write this proposal, so that it's clear that there is something at stake, that there's something to be written about here. After that, you'll propose a methodology for investigating your question. And what that means is just a way of figuring out answers. So what kinds of research are you going to do to help you find answers? Some of these answers to these questions are given to you, and that there are requirements for this class, right? So you're going to be doing some library-based research and finding scholarly sources. You're going to be doing some web-based research and finding popular sources. Those are 2 requirements. But maybe you're also going to be interviewing people or relying on personal experience, relying on observation. So thinking about those things too, because those are valuable sources of information as well, and they can contribute to a methodology for investigating your question, right? So think about all of those things. And then finally, you want to give me, us, your readers, an indication for your timeline for completing the project. And here too, this is almost given to you because the answer is you're going to do this research during the research section of the class, and you can see when that is by looking at our syllabus. But our weekly work schedule, and you'll turn in the paper by the time that the class ends, right? But you also just want to, I want you to set this up in part for yourself so that you can conceptualize when you're going to need to do certain tasks in order to complete this project. So you'll be graded in the same way that I always grade you, which is really how thoroughly and thoughtfully you went about this. Again, I'm really only looking for 2 pages total. I'm looking for kind of a preliminary, like an introduction section where you lay out the question itself and why it's interesting to you. I'm looking for a methodology section where you say what kinds of research you're going to do. And then I'm looking for a timeline for completion section where you say how long it's going to take you to finish it. In each of these sections, this part, where you lay it out should be a paragraph or so, right? But then you can have just a couple of sentences for methodology. You can have just a couple of sentences for timeline for completion. If you're using sources, and you should be, up here when you're talking about why you are pursuing what you are pursuing, try your best to cite those sources, although we'll talk more in depth about how to do that moving forward. Just try your best. Let me know that you're quoting something, some information that you found online.